So my talk will draw upon very similar themes and very similar concepts. I will focus more, however, on music and specific relations between music and Black or Afrofuturism. Black and Afrofuturism in terms of how I can see and work on these things. What I'm hoping for is that what ought to be useful in this particular presentation or talk should be, I hope again, helping us to define genres, helping us to think about basic concepts of Black futurism, such as blackness, right, or Africanness, right, and the notion of the future, the notion of temporality, right, the notion of living for in a teleological process of aims and goals and future-orientated thinking and action. So we have all this kind of in play, but again, the specifics will be, as a philosopher, conceptual analysis of some of these concepts of music, blackness, and specifically dark music. Dark music. Educational background, where I teach at the City University of New York in philosophy and Africana studies. I'm a part-time adjunct lecturer. For those who know about the crisis of the corporatization of the American, I guess, British universities, that basically means I'm very, very much overworked and I'm severely underpaid. Instead of thinking of, I should have said my research interests, which are phenomenology, ordinary language philosophy, conceptual analysis, and Africana philosophy. And then African and Black studies, I focus on African American or Afro-Caribbean, African type diasporic, political history, and artistic history. Let's see if we can tie some of these things together and focus here on music. So, instead of thinking about an ivory tower, my reality is an ebony basement. Like, this binary of black-white dominates discourse in critical race theory, and it has resonance in the popular or ordinary culture. So when it comes to sonic realism, sonic actualism, and Black music, I'm going to present two positions in aesthetics, which ought to help us to define music, ought to help us to think about music, right? And I'm going to try to see which one is more consistent or not. And then I'll apply both ideas and theories of music, musical ontology, to specifically Black and or dark music. What does it mean to say that types of music, historical, genres of music, or any particular instance of music are dark? What does it mean to say that music is Black? Senses in this context, in terms of the same, or synonymy, or is it a function of references that describe similar sets of values, affinity? So, first we have, I'll come at it from, again, the framework I mentioned, we have what's called actualism. Actualism about music, right? Don't worry about any kind of genre, jargon or anything. Just think ordinarily what comes to your mind in terms of what's actual. Actualism is the idea or the theory, right? That what music is, the simple question of what is music is best answered, right, by something like music are sequences of sounds, right, that causally interact, right, with human beings or any type of auditory perceivers, right, such that it does something for them, right? It does something for usually people, right? Very basic sense of music as organized sound transcends any particular cultural barrier, transcends any particular national sense of nationality, is, for the most part, at least for the last 5,000-6,000 years, and probably beyond. Probably going back 15,000-20,000 years, perhaps, right? This idea of the creative use of tools or instruments to produce or create sounds that do things for people. So, actualism is basically the idea that there's a causal relation in terms of the creation of music. And specifically, when applied to music, we have sonic actualism. Let's think about something like this, or hear something like this, whichever. What comes to mind? There are all kinds of different genres of music that originate in particular cultures that are geographically specific and historically specific. This first example is and tends to, especially amongst us, right? In much of the world, even in ordinary popular culture, right? It gives people a sense of, sounds to me like African music, all right? That sense of structural polyrhythm, right? And it is. Drummers from Ghana. No, it's not. 100 years ago, 1950, this is a drum circle recorded probably about a year and a half ago, last year, right? Physical objects, people play, right? And you have this sequence of playing the drums and vibrating, basically, air in the air. There's sonic waves, right? Sound waves. And our inner ear, process these brains, will produce or present consciousness this organized sound as music, which also has associations of historical origination or specificity, cultural resonance, and for our particular purposes here, a sense of maybe racial identity. All right? So, this is actualism in play. Right? Now, what's wrong with this? The transformation of the definition of music in the last century or 20, 30 years has been partly a function of Afrofuturistic, Black futuristic thinking. Right? And so specifically we have something like this. The late 60s, James Brown's backup band, the JPs. The music is both played on an instrument and it's also sequenced. It's also sequenced, right? So when you get to the point in history where you had, and this is very specific to our purposes, you had people like Fred Wesley, you had people like Sun Ra, you had people like Herbie Hancock, right? Understanding and appreciating electronic methods of production, right? And this moves us into one of the major genres of black music, and in this case, very specifically, African diasporic, really African American and black Jamaican type of origins of hip hop music, and that gets us into both a problematic for actualism, and also the next couple chapters on display, and I'll just finish up. So that we have here something that clearly would be an example of maybe dark music.
The technique depends mainly on our
Realism from the Wu-Tang. It's basically low range hip hop type stuff, late 90s. It's very easy to perceive the darkness in the lyrics. In terms of the application of sonic actualism to dark music or to black music, I obviously will not get I don't have enough time to get into the distinction. However, one other view of defining music, of understanding what music is called sonic modal realism. And as opposed to actualism, where you're focusing on causal relations, right, that have cultural and historical and political resonance, social resonance and relations. Modal realism about music is the idea that what is artistic or novel about a particular instance of music is not exactly, is not mainly a function of a causal relationship between the instrument and between the perceiver. Modal realism is the idea that what exists, specifically here about music, exists in a possible or alternative world. And this is very similar to the idea of thinking about science fiction, especially narrative science fiction, films, and obviously novels, books, right? When you are reading or when you're seeing a fictional world, you can understand all kinds of things that are not in the actual world in terms of having a causal relation, right? Such that, for example, when we talk about, a novel where there are zombies that are dismembered, and we can relate this to the horrors and the trauma and tragedy of post-Reconstructional America in terms of the common, ordinary, everyday set of white Southerners who wanted to feel better about themselves and go out and try to lynch a black person and kill and maybe dismember African American or black person of the Africana diaspora, right? So we can relate because we're able to apply concepts that we can relate to not only causally but logically. For example, very quickly, there's something like, if you think of this simple sentence, je suis noir et j'aime la musique noire, right? Or you can think of it for many people in the room, you got it easily, all right? Especially here in Britain, close to France, right? You can think about it in another language that is geographically and historically further away from Indo-European languages. For example, something like Ashiwa Kokujin desu. Kuroi no ongaku wa suki desu, right? I said I used 3 different natural languages just now to express what? I expressed the same exact concepts, the same exact proposition, right? And I said, I'm a black person who enjoys black music, right? So, realism is the idea that the concepts, the propositions, right, and then the music is already out there simply for the creative mind to refer to, right, which does not need talk or understanding of causal relationships. And in the last 30 seconds, when you have something, you have something like this. Danny Brown, we'll finish up with this specific cultural reference in terms of not only black music, but also dark music without the need or utilization of concepts. It's not lyrical. And you hear the original version. We'll finish up with Detroit Tech. I wanted to talk about English, London, jungle, and grime. I wanted to talk a bit about, obviously, New York City hip hop, and then obviously get into some Detroit techno. But we'll finish with this because here's the point. Think in terms of actualism or realism about music, and however you would like to try to apply this and think about what music is. And in terms of dark black music, I have a reference, as I mentioned, to the African diaspora. But dark music can be music that any being in any kind of social or interpersonal power dynamic who is subordinate or has the experience or the history, the real phenomenological experience, right, of battling or combating or expressing a sense of oppression, alienation, or struggle, and also expressing it in terms of celebration or overcoming and joy and happiness, right? So that is the difference between actualism and realism. And here's the original track that will take us out by Juan Atkins. He used to go by Model 500, Detroit Techno. This is the 80s.